The next service is Send. I got to work on this from its early days, and it is our solution to encrypted file attachments. Okay, get ready. So the way that this works, we've built this as a Thunderbird extension where, you click to attach a file and you'll see this new option for attaching a file as a Thunderbird send file. Once you do that, you get prompted like, hey, would you also like to add a password to this?
Mhm.
Totally optional. In either case, no matter what you choose, it will encrypt the file client side, send the encrypted file to cloud storage, and then into your mail that you're composing, instead of attaching the file itself, it attaches a link to the
Mhm.
encrypted file. And so that's how we get around like, size limitations and, whatever mail service you happen to be using. Um, you don't have to deal with that. You've just added a little bit of text to your email. Along with that, you're getting end-to-end encryption. Now, I showed the Thunderbird extension, but there is a companion web application with Send, and it gives you features like you can upload into the web interface, you can manage your files here, you could delete stuff, you could grab those shareable links from the web interface. And the web interface as well as the extension, those are part of the features that we would be launching Send with. So as I mentioned, it's entirely end-to-end encrypted. There's the keys are never stored on the server. Um, if you want, I'm happy to go into details about how we get around that and how we exchange keys. Um, I digress. Okay, so you can also password protect. Did I mention that I worked on this since like the beginning? Um, Optional password protection, and this is kind of important. The expiring files feature. By default, we don't have an interface for this yet, but files will, or rather the links to the files, they expire after a couple of weeks, so that, if you're sending, sensitive information like, I don't know, scans of your passport or something like that, you can safely send those out to, whoever needs them. And, let's say months down the road, they sell their laptop or something like that, and they forget to wipe their hard drive, and somebody is able to retrieve that link. That link now no longer works because that
Mhm.
Thunderbird send link has now expired.
That's really helpful.
I'm hearing kind of two really cool features that stick out to me. One is the end-to-end encryption, and one is the, uh, I guess, lack of file size limit.
Yeah.
So, um, so with those two cool things in mind, who do you think is most likely to use this? Like, what kind of user is this Thunderbird Send feature designed for?
Yeah. Heather, I've thought a lot about this. Ultimately, I'm going to try to give the shorter version of this. This is basically for anybody who is sending kind of anything via email, right? Um, or as I mentioned, because you can use the web interface and grab a link and send
Mhm.
something through, social media messaging or Signal or WhatsApp or whatever. Um, the as a lot of our listeners may know, you have no idea who's running those servers for those services. You have no idea who is able to see the content of your messages and then, grab those attachments. So, and it's not that, somebody's out to get you or you're being targeted, but rather these things are being automated. And so it's not that somebody's targeting you, it's that they're targeting the service. Or
Mhm.
they're just, like, well, if you want to run a successful phishing campaign, get as much data as possible.
Right.
Um, or other things like, oh, I sent it through my, you know, super big tech companies, shareable drive. I just happen to have sent my, potentially Oscar award winning script that needs to like sent it to my producer. And now that script is being farmed for AI training, which is like, womp womp. Well, okay. So now somebody's going to prompt an AI and basically it could spit out the important plot twist that really makes my movie. Okay, all that said, I've just named so many different kinds of people who could benefit from this. Um, this is the canonical example that Ryan loves to give is like sending tax documents. I mentioned sending like, passports, scans of your passport.
Mhm.
There's anything that you just, you don't, it's not so much that it's secret, it's that it's private. And um, this is not an example I need to give to our listeners. It's like, well, private just means you don't want to share it with everybody. Like, I'm not going to get a tattoo of my social security number on my forehead. That's for me and for specific purposes. Um, so really, I would say nowadays it is literally anybody, and I feel like using something like send by default is just a good it's just a good practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, how is this going to work? Because I know that this is an issue that sometimes comes up in support question that IMAP servers have their own size limits. So how will this potentially work with that?
Yeah. Wow. This was Heather's second part of the question that I totally went off the rails on the other thing. Okay, yes. So, sorry about that. The the size limit, we totally bypass it because it is getting sent to the send server, right? So, all we're doing is we're asking users to trust and investigate for themselves. Like, yeah, no, like we read the code. It is literally doing this end-to-end encryption. It is there is no code path in here that uploads uh, an unencrypted version of this file anywhere. And I can see that all it's doing to my email is attaching just this HTTPS send.tb.pro, right? This link. So it weighs along with the user like interface decoration, it's adding a few kilobytes to your email. So your whatever pre-existing file size limit, you're not going to hit it. You're not even attaching a file to your email.
Okay, but hang on. So we have this like web interface. Is there really no limit? So can I just like upload a terabyte size file?
There is okay, so there's going to be a limit because
Why a
unfortunately,
terabyte? Go for a petabyte. Come on.
I mean, yeah.
yeah, three petabytes. Why not? Um, that there will be limits because unfortunately Thunderbird doesn't have unlimited storage. Um,
Right.
Also, at some point, you know, isn't your laptop going to get tired of uploading at some point? It's just going to be like, I'm sleepy. I want to file's too big. Kidding, kidding. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, uh, to give you a picture of the real world limits, I mean, we're running like a super, super underpowered like testing server. And um, as far as for technical reasons that I don't feel like getting into, like it peters out at like 2 GB. That's like that's a buffering thing that is not going to be an issue once we scale. But yeah, yeah, you're not going to hit within reason, within stuff that like people normally
Yeah,
send. Um,
right.
you're fine.
Okay. Is there a general or is there an idea of like having a general fixed size limit per account in the web UI? So like, if I have one file that's 4 gigs versus many files that kind of sum to 4 gigs, or like what is that kind of what does that look like on a
Um,
per
are
user
you
basis?
are you asking what the per user quotas might be?
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I'm asking.
Sadly, that answer is above my pay grade. I do not
Okay, no,
know.
that's
I don't know
fine.
the numbers yet.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Cool, thanks.
Uh, And another question is, we know that this is basically a continuation of what used to be Firefox Send. And we know that there were some, that there were issues that, that the service closed. How are we planning to address those to make sure that this keeps going? And also, I think this is a related issue. So, how do we make sure that even with all of these protections, that the service isn't being used for illegal content?
Yeah, that's a juicy topic. Okay.
Yeah.
The brief version is that, this, for those who don't know the history, this is a reboot. Let's call it a reboot. It's a reboot of the Firefox Send service, which got put to bed because of abuse. And the difference is that that was, like anybody, any anonymous user could upload and then share with a bunch of other anonymous users. With this, you have to have a Thunderbird account, right? You have to I'm sorry, you have to be a Thunderbird Pro subscriber
Right.
because
Hmm.
this is like, well, you're uploading, this takes space on a server, and that costs money. Like we can't give that away for free. So there are ways that we're, you know, various logging means of logging that we're like, okay, this definitely looks like abuse, right? Like, we should see it. We should at least investigate. So that's the very simple first line of defense. Um, the second thing is that because the recipients can be, you know, they don't have to be Thunderbird Pro users. They don't even have to be Thunderbird users. Um, we are we are talking about ways of preventing like, well, yeah, like what if somebody uploads something, some sort of exploitative material, and then just shares the link on, you know, whatever, wherever people do those things. Um, we are talking about for these uploads that don't have a password, right? They're literally for anybody to use. Like, um, maybe it would be reasonable for us to submit that for scanning, right? Like we the details are fuzzy here, right? Because it is end-to-end encrypted. And would we then ask the user to like, well, you're not putting a password on here. Can we submit an unencrypted version for scanning? It's not, that's actually, now that the words come out of my mouth, that's not the greatest solution.
So we're
So
exploring like different ways to
Exploring
mitigate
different.
abuse.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well
okay,
put, well put.
okay.
We're brainstorming, we're trying to come up with something that is still privacy respecting, um,
Okay,
within, but for the things that can be abused, how can we prevent abuse or how can we even like
Yeah.
detect abuse?
right.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a fine balance there, right? We wanna be able to enable users without enabling the bad actors, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. No,
Yeah, that's a tough one.
it's a really hard problem because philosophically, like you're either on the side of, a free and open internet or you're not. And we want to
Yeah,
be like, but yeah.
right.
Yeah. So it's
Mm.
glad that, that there is clearly a lot of thoughts being put into this. So to kind of balance those two really important responsibilities. And so thank you. I know,
Um,
yeah, I kind of threw the big question at you.
yeah. Um, I know you'd mentioned having the files expire.
Mhm.
Which is a cool idea and also keeps the storage, reasonable because everybody's going to forget to delete things after they're not useful anymore. So how long are the files stored until they expire? Is that something that's configurable? Can I say like set it to 1 day? Can I even say like after a user has seen it, delete it like a Snapchat? I don't know.
That is in the works. I can tell you with 100% certainty that that is supported in the code.
Okay.
There are database fields for that. We haven't exposed it in the UI yet. Um, the default expiration is 15 days.
Okay,
That we'll launch
that's
with that.
reasonable.
And then later on, we'll make it configurable so you can say this can be downloaded, one time, 10 times, whatever.
Right.
Expire after 2 days,
Yeah.
etc.
Cool. Nice. I like that.
Yes. I like the 15-day default as someone who constantly forgets to do things.
Yeah.
I kind of need that.
Same.
Now, what if I go ahead and make a file and send the link, and then I realize, what if I send it to the wrong person? I'm like, crap. Can I revoke access to a file?
Yes, you can. There are controls for that in the web interface. Um, you can essentially delete the share link, and it's poof. It no longer works.
Good.
Nice.
So like they click on it and they're just like, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It'll just show up as a reasonable looking, a beautiful error page. It's like this
Mhm.
file doesn't. No, it's not
Beautiful
here.
error page. I love
Sorry.
that. Um, I know you'd mentioned encryption earlier and like not storing keys on the server. Without going too far down the rabbit hole, can you tell me a little bit, is the encryption client side? What algorithms are used? You said they're not sent to the server. So give me a high level just view of how
Yeah.
that works.
I mean, I do love rabbit holes, as
Just
you can tell.
looking down the rabbit hole, not
Well,
going down the rabbit
okay, cool. Yeah. We'll look down the rabbit hole. Um, so everything's client side. We're using in order for this to work both in Thunderbird as an extension and in the web interface, we're using just the standard web cryptography APIs built into the browser with algorithms people know and love, like the AES, GCM, um, and a bunch of other letters for
hole.
other purposes. But that's the main one that we use for encrypting content. Um, the keys are stored on the client, um, and then we're doing um, what seems. I mean, it's clever, but not too clever. The way that we are passing keys along to the user. So here's the simple example: that the encryption key gets wrapped. Let's call it like the key itself gets put in a box. The box gets locked with a key, a second key. Let's call that second key a password. And then
Mhm.
we put the box on the server. And so when somebody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna download that file," the locked box gets downloaded to I'm sorry, or yeah, for all intents and purposes, the locked box is then um, presented to the user. And the user's like, aha, Heather told me the password. I'm going to
Mhm.
type that in. And that produces the key, reproduces the key that unlocks the box that then allows them um, the real key, and then they can download the real file and decrypt the file. Ooh,
Cool.
sorry, podcast only listeners. That was a lot. I want to draw pictures for you so badly, but
Well,
that's
we're not drawing pictures for the video people
we're
either, so
not.
it's
We're
nice and
Yeah,
not.
fair.
that's true.
Okay, cool.
It's mental
Uh,
pictures for
Mental
everybody.
pictures.
for
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
Great. Okay, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what happens if the recipient opens a link in a browser that doesn't support encryption?
Yeah. This is something we considered, and then we looked at. We're like, oh, how do we do workarounds for this? That you gotta go back, like way back. You gotta go to 2014 to
Hmm.
find a browser that does not support these APIs. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, so or Internet Explorer. But if you're using Internet Explorer, you have so much malware on your computer that it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
so many other
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah, it's like that is the least of your problems right there.
Right,
Sorry.
right. Oh, very cool. Oh man, I'm excited about Thunderbird Send. And I think that you've done a really good job of like painting a picture, especially since you've been like involved from the beginning. And I think we're ready to talk about the fourth and final service, which also is another one of your children.
Yes. Yes.
Your mini thunder babies.
They grow up so
Thunder
fast.
babies. Oh my goodness. That's too funny.
I need a onesie. I need to see a onesie.
We have them on our merch store, I think.
Perfect. Uh,
Well, we will put a link.
I wonder if I can get one of those on my cat.
I'm just imagining
You
my
can
6-year-old wearing a shirt that says like Thunderbird Assistant, like just following me around, like, you know.